In this week's BS of the Week, I reviewed Dr Paul Saladino's hilarious video on which foods damage the thyroid. And I have to say that Paul is now one of my favourite YouTubers, right up there with Chris Kresser. Roll the titles.
For the record, I'm done trying to make y'all comfortable. For the record, you ain't trying to grow, then it's done for you.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Before I jump into the video, just a quick reminder that I'm now offering the SIBO, organic acid, stool tests and consult via my website. So if you have any health or digestive problems, then consider taking these tests, as they will provide a lot of very detailed information upon which you can start making informed decisions and then start getting your health back on track. And on that bombshell, to the video.
This is a summary paper that's really great. I'll share this one on YouTube. If you guys are listening, you can, I will probably post a video of this on my Instagram as a snippet, but if you want to see the whole thing, go on YouTube and watch this visually. The title of the article is Various Possible Toxicants Involved in Thyroid Dysfunction, a review. It's great. It goes through all these. It's well referenced.
Okay, before we pull apart some of the evidence that Paul Saladino puts forward on plants that damage the thyroid, the first thing that we absolutely need to do is show you how to evaluate scientific papers to see whether that paper is worth the paper it is printed on. So to do this, you need to look at things like, do the authors have relevant expertise or conflicts of interest? Is the paper published in a legitimate journal? What's the journal's impact factor, and does this match the paper's claims? Was the study designed, conducted and analysed correctly? Is the paper consistent with other studies? And does the paper follow standard conventions for scientific writing? And if you are a person who is waving any study on screen, then there are a couple of things that you should always do. You should never rely on titles and abstracts, that you should acquire the necessary background knowledge, and you should read the original study yourself. Something I'm about to show you that Paul Saladino did not do. Now, I haven't got the time in this video to go through in detail how you pull apart a scientific paper correctly, but if you want me to do this in a separate video, then let me know in the comments below. So let's quickly jump in and evaluate Paul Saladino's paper to see whether his paper is useful for assessing the impacts of foods on the thyroid. So the first place that I want to start is with the authors. So the lead author, Dr. Jagminder Kaur Bajaj, has a background in pharmacology, so the study of drugs and medications. So Dr. Bajaj has just 13 articles published in PubMed. Of those articles, just one is on foods and thyroid, and the others are on everything from cholera, alopecia, and anaesthetic management. The other contributors in the study also have backgrounds in pharmacology with no expertise in thyroid health or the impacts of food on the thyroid. So for Paul Saladino to cite people with no expertise in this area is absolutely hilarious. The next thing that I want to cover off is the impact factor of the journal that the paper was published in. So the paper that Paul Saladino was citing was published in the Journal of Clinical and Diagnostic Research. Now, an impact factor is a measure of the frequency with which the average article in a journal has been cited in a particular year. This is used to measure the importance or rank of a journal by calculating the times its articles are cited. So if you look in the Journal Citation Reports database, you will see that the Journal of Clinical and Diagnostic Research has an impact factor of 0.41. Now, the impact factor scale ranges from 0 plus to 10 plus, so the article that Paul Saladino is quoting is in the lowest brackets of all 12,298 journals that are included in the Journal Citation Reports database. Now, yes, impact factors have their pros and cons. So for example, citation behaviour varies tremendously between fields. So what has an impact factor of 2.1 may be considered very low in one field, but high in another. So for example, in cell biology, journal impact factors range from 0.26 to 34.22, whereas in history, they range from 0.02 to 2.15. But what I want to reiterate here is that the article that Paul Saladino is citing is published in a journal with very limited credibility in the scientific world. Now, I could continue pulling this article apart in terms of, was the study designed, conducted and analysed correctly? Is the paper consistent with other studies? Does the paper follow standard conventions of scientific writing? And all of this shows a resounding Paul Saladino is a BS of the week extraordinaire. But let's move on and see what else Paul has to say.
Talked about many of these already. Excess dietary iodine, multiple reference here.
Excess dietary iodine. So just look at all of the contributors. So iodine salt, processed refined foods, and certain supplements and medications. And in the words of the authors, these contributors can cause a problem in genetically susceptible individuals. So I have no idea what Paul's point is here. And if you look at global thyroid incidence rates from around the world, people in Western countries are certainly not suffering from issues associated with excess dietary iodine. It is more that their iodine intakes are very low because of processed refined diets.
Naturally occurring goitrogens, we talked about this. They are found in legumes, plants, amiodarone, lithium, right? In addition to cabbage, cauliflower, broccoli,
Soy,
turnip,
horrible.
soy or soy enriching foods. Big problem.
So again, the widely accepted stance on goitrogens from credible scientists around the world is that they are largely destroyed by various cooking methods, or they are only a problem when a person has an underlying thyroid issue, or when a person is eating copious amounts of raw goitrogen-rich foods and their iodine intake is rather low. So again, an absolute pointless argument Paul is trying to make here.
The role of dietary fat talks about when they feed oxidized fats to rats, the thyroid doesn't function. Imagine that. If you eat canola oil, your thyroid might not be happy.
Again, if you feed a person or animal processed refined foods, then the person or animal will get processed refined outcomes. But again, what has this got to do with a balanced plant-based diet?
The role of green tea, okay?
So rats were used as a reference point here, so there is zero evidence that green tea in humans causes thyroid issues unless a person has an underlying thyroid condition.
Soy and soybean products.
This is absolutely hilarious. I mean, has he even read this study? It says here clearly in black and white by the authors, a review of 14 trials concluded that although soya protein and isoflavones do not affect thyroid function in people with sufficient iodine intake, they may interfere with the absorption of synthetic thyroid hormones, increasing the dose of medication in hypothyroid patients. So even in the study that Paul is citing, the authors of that paper are clearly stating that soy and soybean products are not a problem.
Cyanogenic plant foods, cauliflower, cabbage, mustard, turnip, radish, bamboo shoot, cassava, okay? They have been shown to possess anti-TPO activity, right? Moreover, boiled extracts of these cyanogenic plant foods showed highest anti-TPO potential, followed by cooked and raw extracts. Goitrin is an active goitrogen present in the plants rutabaga, turnip, and brassica seeds, all right?
Again, this shows how caught up in his own bias Paul Saladino really is. If we were to read the next sentence, it says, however, cooking destroys the enzyme responsible for the activation of pro-goitrin to goitra, this negating its anti-thyroid potency. So again, despite the spin that Paul is trying to put on this, even the authors of the paper that he is citing are saying that cyanogenic plant foods are not a problem.
Roll of groundnut. Not a lot of people eat groundnut. Roll of millet.
Again, his arguments are absolutely ridiculous. Animal studies and people with very low iodine intakes are the issues when people are consuming groundnuts and millet.
Yep. The role of millet, selenium deficiency, and vitamin B12 deficiency implicated in autoimmune thyroiditis. Bisphenol A, triclosan. These are xenoestrogens. I did a whole podcast with Anthony J, you guys, if you want to do that. Perchlorates found in rocket fuels. Study conducted on pregnant women living in an industrial area in Southern California. Strong association between urinary perchlorate and decreased total and free thyroxine levels and TSH.
Absolutely shocking, isn't it? People with exposure to toxic chemicals have significant impacts on their endocrine system.
Cosmetics, UV filters. This is sunscreen, you guys. This is sunscreen. A Sunny on benzophenone 2, which is a sunscreen chemical. Another chemical, OMC. I won't read that name. Maybe I will read that name. Octyl-methoxycinnamate
Nice.
causes dose-dependent decreases in serum T3 and T4 concentration. What are you using for sunscreen? Parabens, UV filters in your sunscreen or your cosmetics could affect this.
In rats, which has not been proven in humans. Now, do I believe that conventional sunscreens are safe? Well, obviously it's questionable, but for Paul to extrapolate rats to humans in this manner is again absolutely hilarious.
Heavy metals, we talked about this, cadmium and lead, all right? This is a great paper. Smoking, thyroid abnormalities, role of age.
Again, this is not a good paper. I've already shown how poor this paper really is. And you know what the funniest thing about this whole video is that not once does Paul even mention the impact of animal products on thyroid health. He talks about heavy metals but fails to talk about the bioaccumulation of heavy metals in the food chain. It just shows how unbelievably biased Paul is. So do I acknowledge that plants impact on thyroid health? Absolutely. But it's in line with the science that plants will only impact on the thyroid when a person has a thyroid disorder or when they are eating very high amounts of raw vegetables with low iodine intakes. Geez, and I thought it was meant to be the vegans who were caught in zealotry.
So this paper really highlights all of the things that we were just talking about. People can find that paper. Again, it's in the video. It'll be in the Instagram snippet. But that, if you avoid those things, and I think we've touched on all of those, you will probably put your thyroid in a much better position.
Okay, so there we have it. I think that Paul has taken BS of the week to a whole new level. I would go as far to say that Paul, particularly with his recent appearance on The Doctors, is now right up there with Chris Kresser in terms of pure out-and-out comedy. He cites a paper that is incredibly poor and then fails to read the entirety of the paper where the authors of that paper even debunk his arguments. What a guy. So that's the end of this week's BS of the week. I hope you all enjoyed. And as always, remember to look after your body because it's the only place you have to live. And I'll see you next time.